I didn't wake up that morning thinking today's the day I'm gonna sneak in the ashes of a dead cat into a graveyard at a funeral. But that's exactly what happened. About 18 years ago, I was just about to graduate college and I was looking for a job. And back then, you had to look for a job in the newspaper. And a friend of mine showed me an ad in the Washington Post for a kitchen design firm. And so I applied. And I was so shocked when I heard that they called me in for an interview. And I remember driving out to Tyson's Corner, and the steering wheel became a little bit slimy because I was nervous. And when I got there, that's when I first met Paul and Mike. And I must have impressed them because I got hired and I got my dream job. Now, Paul, the creative one, he can light up a room the second he walks in it. He is so funny. He's got like the quickest wit, and just has the best design eye. He's also a really great mentor and is just so generous with his praise to the designers. And Mike, oh man, Mike was the business one, and he was the best leader. He really kept us together as a team and could really, from a business sense, just keep things going. And he was also kind and compassionate. He would always remember, like if a client came in and shared a fact about their grandkid, he'd remember their name. And last year, on my birthday, at midnight, I got a text from him that said, "So I can be the first. Happy birthday to the most kind, radiant, beautiful, and talented person I know. If I could choose another niece, it would be you." So, needless to say, over the course of nearly 2 decades, these guys have been more than just my bosses, and I was more than just an employee. We became more like family. And last December, we went out at dinner time around the holidays just to reflect upon the year we had. And I was kind of telling them it was a hard year for me. Work-wise, there were about 3 projects that I worked so hard on and they didn't go through. And that was really discouraging me. And then on a personal note, I had some like health stuff that came up, and I was also going through the woes of dating. And I'm sure some of you have been there. It's the pits. And I was just feeling insecure and kind of just over it. And I shared that with them. And that's when Mike chimed in with a story from his Jewish faith. He told me about King Solomon sending out a servant to find a magical ring. Now this ring, if a happy man looked at it, would become sad, and if a sad man looked at it, would become happy. So this guy goes out searching for it, but it's really a made-up story. He's just like sending this guy off on, a run. But this dude actually finds it, and he comes back to the king, and he shows him this ring. And when King Solomon looks at it, there's an inscription on the inside that reads, "This too shall pass." That was just the golden nugget of wisdom I needed to step out into the new year on the right foot. So, you can only imagine my surprise when on January 3rd, I got a call from Paul that said that Mike had suddenly passed away. I would say, a wave of devastation just crashed over me when it finally clicked, because it was really hard to understand what he was saying. But when it did, it just took me to my knees. I was worried, and fear kind of overtook me too. I was worried about Paul. I was worried about my work family, and I was worried about my future. And so, over the next couple of days, it was kind of a blur, because they lived in Florida, and I had to get down there. And I made arrangements, and I remember getting right in the Uber straight to their house, and kind of just like setting myself up for what was about to happen when I was going to be reunited with Paul. And when I got there, of course, it was, very emotional, but that's when he shared with me that one of Mike's dying wishes was to be buried with the ashes of his black cat, Quincy. But when Paul asked about all this, they told him no. Apparently, it's not kosher to be buried with your pet. So, now's the time I've got to tell y'all a little secret about me. I am a capital C cat lady. And by C, I definitely mean crazy. but not the kind of crazy that eats cats. I had to do it. I'm more the kind of crazy in that I have a cat stroller, I have a cat backpack, and I have one of those baby Bjorn things that you can like strap on to wear your cat around the house. And I never crossed the threshold of having more than two. I had Walt and Tuck, and they were even special needs cats. Twice a day for almost 10 years, I had to give my cats a feline inhaler because they had asthma. And Tuck passed away a few years ago, but as if to be kicked while down, the day after Mike passed away, I had to put down my little baby Walter. And so, emboldened with the spirit of Walt and Tuck, I knew that come hell or high water, I was gonna make sure that Mike's dying wish came true. Put me in, coach, I got this. The morning of the funeral was a beautiful day, and the rabbi gave a really touching ceremony and service. And people from Mike's family, his family members, spoke such beautiful things about him. I was seated right beside Paul, and inside a tiny little Kleenex-sized box was Quincy stuffed in my purse. And so after the memorial service ended, we all walked over to the grave site, and that's where, with his tradition, everybody that attended would take a little scoop of dirt and put it on top of the grave. And so I was kind of hanging out on the sidelines thinking like, okay, what's my move gonna be? And that's when a funeral director made his way over to me and said, I know what you're gonna do. Oh my gosh, my heart stopped. I literally was just like, I don't care. Like, this is happening. I don't care if you take me off in chains. Like, doesn't matter. I mean, can you see the headlines now? Like, cat burglar gets arrested, smuggling cat into a funeral. Like, it did not matter to me because it was gonna happen. But that's actually when he said, I lost my dog a year ago, so I get it. So look, be the last one to visit the grave, and when you do it quick. Oh my gosh, thank you, Jesus. We were in cahoots. I was so excited. And so then I was just kind of watching and waiting. And as the people started to meander away, I made my way towards the grave. And there was a rabbi standing guard. So with a little quick thinking on my part and had my head hanging low, I was like, would you mind if I just had a moment to myself with Mike? And he was like, oh, of course. And so the second he turned his back, I knelt down, I grabbed Quincy, and I tossed him in the grave, and I did it. Quincy was there. And so what happens next, though, can only be described of as a show, because I started to take, a scoop of dirt and put it on top. But it wasn't just one scoop. I had to make sure I covered the box. And so I was frantically scooping into the grave. And that's when I started to get a little attention. And some people started looking at me from back there, and I was like, oh God, I got to do this. And they started to walk their way up towards me, and by the time they got there, I had luckily covered the box, so I did it. And they kind of took the shovel from my hands, and they were like, there, and we walked over. And I remember making it my way up to Paul, and I kind of gave him a little wink and a nod thing, and I was like, mission accomplished. And so I did that for Mike. And when I got back home, about a week later, I met up with my family, and they knew how much Mike meant to me. And my sister gave me a little gift. And there was a card that was so beautifully written, it touched my heart. And inside was a ring. It's actually this ring right here. And on one side it's black, and on one side it's white, and in the center there's a sparkly stone. It's a reminder that in life there is joy and there's sorrow. It's a reminder that even though there's darkness, there's light that can come through, and there's beauty in it all. And it's a reminder of the wisdom that Mike shared with me. This too shall pass. Thank you.